listening to Reality Rap. I'm your host, Melanie. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show. Hey guys, hope you guys are all doing good out there. We are getting ready for a snowstorm that is starting supposedly in a couple of hours, and then it is going to get insanely cold. I had to go do all my running around this morning. I took the dogs to the dog park because I'm not going to be able to take them for a couple of days. I mean, I guess I could take them. I guess it's more I'm not willing to take them because it's going to be like 4 degrees. Monday is only supposed to be a high of 0. So yeah, I am not going to go stand out at the dog park. Today, I'm going to be recapping The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City Season 5, Episode 16, which was the season finale. And let me just tell you what an amazing season finale it was for Salt Lake. I think that might have been the best season finale that I've ever seen, or at least that I can remember. Honestly, kudos to the ladies for this amazing season. I'm sure by now all of you have heard that Jen Shah has had her time reduced again. I guess this is like the 3rd time that she's had her sentence reduced, and she's now going to be home before Thanksgiving next year in 2026. So her sentence was 6.5 years, and she went into the camps in February of 2023. So if she gets out by Thanksgiving of next year, before Thanksgiving 2026, that means she'll have served 3 years and 8 months. So just a little over half of her sentence. That's a lot. I think, isn't it for federal sentencing, you have to serve 85%? So she must be cooperating somehow because that's a pretty big reduction in her sentence. I have to ask you guys if you think that Bravo will bring her back when she gets out of jail. Could you imagine? I hope not, because I never liked her and I really hated the way she used to fly off the handle. And honestly, the cast is really good right now, so she's not needed. But I have a sneaky suspicion that they might bring her back once she gets out of the camps, kind of like how they did with Teresa. With Teresa, they just stopped filming until she got out of camps, and then they started filming again. I wonder how the cast would react if they did bring her back. Out of curiosity, I just went to Jen Shah's Instagram page to see if she still follows any of the current cast, and I couldn't find that she did, but I did see that Meredith still follows Jen Shah, which I found interesting. My guess is that she doesn't really pay attention much to social media as to who she does and doesn't follow, so that's probably why, but nobody else follows her. So it would be kind of interesting for her to come back. But again, like I said, if she's going to act the way she did when she was on last time with the screaming and the crazy outbursts, she can just stay where she is. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into the recap. The season finale starts out with all of the ladies sitting in their confessional looks, and Heather is narrating, and she's talking about how all of them have put their lives on display and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, come on, Heather. It's not like you're changing history here. You're on a reality TV show. She was taking it way too serious, and it was a little too. We then go back to Puerto Vallarta, and we're on day 4, and Meredith is sitting at the breakfast table with like this furry eye mask on, but she's got it like cocked off to the side because she has it covering one eye, and she looks very hungover. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. And Heather comes in. Meredith tells her that she woke up in the morning with a scratched cornea somehow. And I'm like, scratched cornea, hangover, basically the same thing. Why she didn't just come out in a pair of sunglasses like Heather did when she came out with the black eye, I don't know. Surprisingly, Meredith apologizes to Heather for screaming at her the night before, but she feels like nobody will listen to her unless she's screaming. And Heather accepts her apology, and they seem good. I was like, wow, that went very easy. I was not expecting that because Meredith tends to hold grudges. Heather has planned a lunch where they're all going to to dress like Lisa. So they all come out and they're wearing wigs like Lisa's hair. Lisa's the last one to come into the room and she is surprised and she thinks they all look amazing because they all look like her. Even Whitney, who's wearing her 3-year-old Tom Ford pants. And I was like, when Lisa said that, I was like, God, Lisa, you are such a snob. So they sit down for lunch and each one of them does their best Lisa impersonation. And when it's Whitney's turn, she gets up from the table and she's walking away. First, she says something about her $60,000 rings. And then she gets up and she turns around and she walks away from the table. And as she's walking away, you could see like these giant tags hanging off of her shirt and her pants. And Lisa tells her, your tags are showing. And Whitney says, I know, I have to return my clothes after the trip. And Lisa immediately says, that's not me. And Whitney turns around and she tells her, you know, there have been rumors for years that you wear your clothes and then return them. Lisa tells her, I don't do that. I keep everything and it's all in my closet. You could go in my closet and see that they're bursting. And I'm like, oh my God. I will say in the after show, all of the women did say that Lisa doesn't return her clothes and they've never seen her with any of the tags hanging off. And as far as they know, she doesn't do that. So I guess take it for what it's worth. Whitney was still defending that Lisa does do this on the after show. She said that one of her friends happens to work at Nordstrom's and Lisa's always returning them, and that she's friends with somebody who has, you know, a lot of designer clothes and Lisa borrows them all the time and acts as if they're hers. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. It does seem like most of the stuff Whitney comes up with about Lisa ends up not being true, or it's just a very small version of the truth. So I kind of take it with a grain of salt. And honestly, who really cares? I know I don't. I don't know why Whitney insists on poking Lisa. They were going to have a nice lunch, and for whatever reason, Whitney decides that she's going to dig at Lisa. And in her talking head, actually, she says that Lisa has been so horrible to her this trip or whatever, so she's just going to lean into it or something along those lines. I don't know. Maybe she decided she needed to have a moment because she's worried about coming back next season. I don't know, but she decided this was going to be a moment for her. And sadly, Lisa gave it to her. Lisa asks what she's implying, and Whitney tells her that she's more fake than she portrays and goes into this diatribe of how horrible Lisa is. And of course, Lisa gets pissed. She tells Whitney to take off the wig because she will never be her. And Whitney tells her to shut the up. Lisa jumps up like she's going to snatch that wig right off of Whitney's head. It is kind of weird that this season, Lisa is coming off as very aggressive, like physically aggressive. The way she like jumps up all the time, it makes you wonder if there's something going on in her life other than Whitney pissing her off all the time, that she so easily flies off the handle with Whitney. I don't know why she gives Whitney that satisfaction. And it's almost like Whitney knows. And so Whitney just keeps poking the bear, and Lisa keeps giving her these big reactions, which I think is what Whitney is looking for. If Lisa just kind of laughed it off and let it roll off of her, I think Whitney might stop. Or maybe she won't. I don't know. Whitney is pretty stupid. Brittany tries to come to Lisa's aid, and Mary tells her she doesn't even know why she's chiming in because she tried to record the whole group. I love Mary that she's got to keep bringing that up. Brittany tries to say that they all do it, and they're all like, yeah, no, we don't. Brittany tells them that they have all been torturing her, and once again goes running off for another me moment. Somebody tries to stop Brittany, and I think it was Heather, and she's like, you know, don't leave. And Mary's like, let her go. Which, you know what? I would have said the same thing. Her theatrics are off the chart. The way she cries at the drop of a hat after she's the one that screws up. So yeah, I don't feel bad for her either. But for whatever reason, Angie and Lisa go running after her. Mary tells the rest of the table she doesn't understand why Angie ran after a woman who doesn't like her. Angie's supposed to be Mary's friend, and here she is running after Brittany, which I don't think it was like that deep. Somebody just ran away from the table crying, and so they went to go check on her, but Mary definitely did not like that. So they all get up to go do their respective activities. Lisa, Meredith, Bronwyn, and Mary all go horseback riding, but really, They're all just being led around by these guys who are holding onto the horses. I'm like, that's not really horseback riding. That's like when you're 5 and you're at a birthday party and they put you up on the horse and lead you around with a rope. A couple of the horses were kind of acting up, and Mary tells us in her talking head that she doesn't want the horse to fall on her and break her bones because they won't heal right, and then she'll be a defect the rest of her life. And then she says something about how Meredith shouldn't be on a horse because she can't hear. I'm like, oh my God, just to be in her brain to figure out how it works. She says some crazy stuff. Anyways, the rest of them all go make ceviche. Nothing really happens there. Everyone who's in the horse group, they all get off their horses and they're walking in the ocean. And Mary tells them that she is done with Angie because she ran after Brittany and that Angie needs to pick a side. And again, I think Mary is being a little extreme here, but we do learn later on why she's so quick to cut Angie off. But I was kind of shocked by the whole statement that she was like, I am done with Angie. I was like, wow, where did that come from? They head off to their final dinner at some theme park, and we really could call it the final dinner because I don't know if we'll ever get Lisa to sit at a table with Whitney again. Bronwyn is dressed like a parrot. Again, I'm sure her coat is super expensive in couture, but she looks like a giant bird walking around. It is so colorful and it's all feathers. Like I said, she looked like a parrot. So they sit down and they order their food. Whitney orders a pepperoni pizza like she's a 5-year-old. Angie and Meredith joke about how they've been making eye contact all day, so they might be becoming friends again, but they don't want to use the F word yet. The food comes out and Angie asks Mary if she wants a bite of hers, or I think she said, do you want a pepperoni or something like that? And Mary just ignores her. And Angie looks so confused and she's like, Mary, why are you being so quiet with me? And Mary says, well, you ran after Brittany when you know how I feel about her. And essentially tells Angie that she was wrong about her and their friendship. And I felt so bad for Angie, but Angie handled it so well, and she tells Mary, I love you, Mary. You changed my life. And once she said that, you could see the demeanor on Mary's face change. She kind of just melted right there. And then she smiled and they both started crying. Mary tells the table that she has abandonment issues because both of her parents abandoned her, and her dad told her when she was 6 years old that he didn't like her. What kind of a father says that to a 6-year-old child? I felt so bad for Mary. I also wonder, is this the father who walked by the Jeffrey Dahmer scene? Because I shouldn't be laughing, but I just had to throw that in there. Anyway, she tells them that whenever she feels like somebody has betrayed her, she just walks away because it's like a self-preservation. I feel so bad for Mary. We have learned so much about her this season. Her upbringing really was not optimal between her dad leaving when she was 6, and we also learned that her mom would run after men instead of taking care of the 5 children that she had. It almost makes sense as to why she married is such an older man. She never really had a parental figure in her life, so maybe he filled that void for her. She really has been so vulnerable this season between her son's addiction and opening up about her childhood. I think she gave us the most when it came to personal storylines, not group storylines, but storylines that each individual cast member had. She definitely gave us way more than everybody else. And she was super vulnerable. It wasn't like she was just giving us fluff stories or made up stories. I think everything that we saw was genuinely Mary's real life. Anyway, Mary and Angie make up, and Mary tells us in her talking head that Angie is her family and that she loves her. And honestly, it's really nice to have a genuine friendship on these shows because so many of them are superficial friends and they're only friends when they're filming, not when they're off camera. But I do feel like these two are definitely really friends, and I really like seeing it. Heather asks who else wants to clear the air, so Meredith tells Whitney that she talked to the blogger, Up and Adam. Apparently he just called her because he has her phone number. I thought that was a little bit of a made up story she came up with. But either way, she tells Whitney that Up and Adam told her that he had never given Whitney proof that Lisa had started the Alibaba rumor and that Whitney had twisted his words. I'm not going to lie, I had completely forgotten about the Alibaba of it all until Meredith brought it up. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I had totally forgotten about that. Whitney is still convinced that Lisa put this out to the bloggers, and Lisa tells her that she doesn't talk to the bloggers. And then Whitney's like, I know that Lisa used to talk to Reality Von Teese because I reached out to Monica. And I audibly gasped when she said that. I was like, and I was waiting for Monica to come walking in at this point. I was like, that would have been amazing if Monica would have walked in and was like, hey, bitches. Anyways, all of them are like, what the f-? Whitney tells them that Monica told her that she has proof that Lisa was talking to Reality Von Teese, and they cannot believe that Whitney would talk to Monica after last season. And Whitney's like, I had no choice because I was backed into a corner. And I was like, how was she backed into a corner? Because she made up that she heard it was Lisa who put out the Alibaba rumors? Did Monica show Whitney the proof? I have so many unanswered questions. They should just bring Monica back next season so we could just get everything cleared up. Could you imagine? Imagine if they brought back Jen Shaw and Monica on the same season. Now that would be some insanity, right? Could you imagine? Heather goes into this very well-rehearsed speech about how they're all trying to expose each other, that instead of trying to expose each other and get receipts on each other, they should be supporting each other because they're already being judged by everybody else. And then she suggests that each one of them goes through their phones and find the meanest text that they wrote about somebody in the group and then have that person read it out loud. Honestly, as soon as I heard this, I was like, this is going to end badly. And I almost wonder if Heather was just waiting for the opportunity to give this rah-rah speech and to have them do this burn game because it seemed so well planned. Mary goes first, and hers is about Heather, how the fame of the show has gone to Heather's head and that she has forgotten the people who helped her get to where she is. I would have to agree with Mary's assessment of Heather here. Her first couple of seasons, I definitely liked her so much more. And then you could tell there was like a shift in her. Suddenly, she thought she was the queen bee and she became very produced. It was pretty much right after Jen Shaw left, actually, is kind of when we kind of saw Heather start to turn. And she became friends with Lisa Barlow in season 4. So that had to have gone to her head because she's always viewed Lisa as like the cool girl, I guess, if you want to say that about a 50-year-old woman. Brittany goes next, and hers is about Mary. So Mary reads it, and it basically says, I would rather have tea with Bronwyn than Mary. And Mary was like, what? We never had plans to have tea. In her talking head, she's like, she should have tea with Bronwyn because I don't want to have tea with her. And everyone was like, that's the meanest thing you have in your phone? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, lies. That has to be a lie. Because you know, after Bronwyn threw her under the bus about what she said about Angie being a slut or whatever, you know she had to have texted somebody about Bronwyn. And I'm sure it wasn't very nice. So I don't believe Brittany's text at all. Angie goes next, and hers is about Bronwyn, and basically she calls Bronwyn a gold digger and that Todd has one foot in the grave and the other on a banana peel, and she would rather be self-made than be someone who sucked her way to the top. I was like, oh my God, Angie has the best reads. But I was confused about Todd's other foot being on a banana peel. I Didn't quite understand what that meant. Did that mean he was slipping somehow? I hope she explains that at the reunion because I did not get that. In the Peacock version, we get Lisa's. We didn't get that on when they aired this on just regular Bravo. And hers was about Meredith last year. And she said that Meredith digs up information to weaponize it, which, I mean, Lisa's not the only one to have said that about Meredith. Realistically, she wasn't wrong. But they have cleared everything up, and obviously they're friends again this season. So it wasn't that big of a deal. Meredith didn't really seem to care. Heather goes next, and hers was about Whitney. And man, it was bad. It was after their fight in Arizona a couple of seasons back. And she does say, you know, I didn't mean this. This was totally out of rage. And she called Whitney a low-life piece of shit, and I never should have trusted her. And Whitney starts to cry. Obviously, Heather's like, you know, this was a couple years ago when we were in a bad place, blah, 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 blah. And Whitney's like, I know, but it still hurts. Whitney goes next, and hers is about Lisa. Shocker. And hers was a text from somebody else who told her that if Whitney and Justin were looking for a third, that she knew someone who Lisa could vouch for because Lisa had made out with this woman while this woman was jerking off John. I was like, how could you not laugh? It was almost comical. And what I want to know is, why did this woman text this to Whitney? Are Whitney and Justin swingers? Were they looking to bring in another woman into their marriage? We never get to the bottom of that. I'm hoping maybe at the reunion, Andy will ask that question because honestly, I want to know. Of course, Lisa is furious and Whitney tells her, I didn't believe it. This was just the worst thing I had in my phone. You know, I attacked your marriage. And I'm like, well, it wasn't you that said it. It was a text from somebody else. Lisa, I think, can kind of see through this, and she's pissed because she's like, you just dragged John into it, and I can't believe that you would even put this out there, which I think is what Whitney was really trying to do. I know she was like, no, this was just the worst thing I had. We need to burn it and leave it here. But I think she knew if I put this out there, now there's this rumor flying around that Lisa and John are swingers. For whatever reason, Lisa brings in Angie and Sean, and she's like, it's like when the rumors were going around about Sean, and Angie was like, don't bring me into it. And Lisa starts screaming at Whitney, telling her that she's dirty. Heather tries to explain to Lisa that she's missing the point. They're supposed to leave it here, and Whitney's trying to explain it. Lisa wants no part of it, and honestly, I can't blame her because Whitney does come at Lisa nonstop. But I also think it's kind of a laughable text. Really, she should have just laughed it off and been like, whatever. I did a poll on my Instagram asking if you think Lisa overreacted and missed the whole point of this burn session. And right now we have 72% say she overreacted and 28% said it was too far. So if you want to participate in that, head over to my Instagram page, Reality Rap Podcast, and you can participate in that poll. Lisa once again brings in Angie and says, this text is the same as when I heard that Sean does circle jerks.
I heard that Sean does circle jerks. How does that feel? Like, she basically said the same thing. What the fuck was that? No, I'm saying that's what she just said to me,
Why
basically.
would you fucking say that?
Okay,
Don't touch me.
You just
Why
hit
did
me.
you say that?
Because it's the same thing she just said to me.
Why did you bring me into that? Fucking go after her, not
Angie,
me.
stop.
I'm saying it's hurtful.
Fuck you. Fucking low.
You started this whole thing.
I did not start this meeting. I want to burn this whole
Get
thing.
a grip of yourself.
Angie,
Get a grip of yourself. Stop.
This is fine. It's only okay when it happens to you. It's not okay when it happens to me. That's how
I
it
don't know
always
why
is.
you brought her in it.
Lisa, take a deep breath.
No, I'm not going to take a deep
The
breath. It
point
never
is-
matters when it happens to me.
She's horrible. That's just mean. I don't know why she's got to say your name. I think that Lisa tried to make Angie feel how Whitney just made her feel. I think she wanted Angie to relate with her, but she just didn't land that plane.
Man, what an ending. They're all screaming at each other. Angie's boobie is out. Lisa storms off. Bronwyn tells us in her talking head that she is repulsed by Lisa and calls her a narcissist. So I can only imagine how all of this is going to carry over into the reunion. Lisa did say on Watch What Happens Live that her and Angie are in a better place and that they're working on their friendship. And she also called Bronwyn two-faced, which, I mean, we all kind of came to that conclusion also towards the end of the season, or at least I did. We get all their wrap-up cards. Angie is no longer busy on the phone and has more time to spend with Electra. Lisa has been traveling and building a new home. Meredith sold out of her bath bombs and is now creating a Meredith Marks recording device. I'm assuming that's some sort of a joke. That's not actually what she's doing. Mary is taking it day by day with her son's recovery and is happy Jared has stopped DMing her. Bronwyn and Todd's relationship is closer than ever, and Gwen has no plans to meet her grandparents. Sorry, but I am still predicting that Todd is going to give Bronwyn an ultimatum, either him or the show, and she's going to choose the show. Whitney has sworn off bloggers and is focusing on Prism. Heather has finished her second book tour and is working on a third book. And that's it. The reunion starts next week, and if it's anything like this season, it is going to be so good. All right, guys, that is all I have for the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, so I will talk to you guys next week. Have a great weekend. Bye.